Hello everyone, welcome to another video. I'm Randy and I am launching an original series. This is my first one. It's going to deal with music and film. I will have the film at the end part of the video in case you don't want to watch that. But anyway, I got the idea from watching Steve, All the World's a Stage for a while. He was doing his favorite album from each year, and a lot of times I would, in the comments section, list my favorite album, and I thought, why don't I work on that as a series? So, and he gave a lot of information on the year, but I decided I was going to do my favorite album, song, film, and TV show from each year. And he started in 1965. I'm going to start around when the album first started, which album first started, I think it was 1948. But you know, that it was mostly 78s and 45s early on, so there weren't really a lot of albums. So I'm going to actually start in 1950. I know 1965 is popular because it was the Beatles started, but you know, there was music before the Beatles. There was rock and roll with Elvis Presley and Chuck Berry and Little Richard and Jerry Lee Lewis. But there was also music before that. So I am going to start in 1950, 2 years after the album first appeared, the 12-inch album. And let's get started. Oh, another caveat that I need to mention, much like Gary at Physical Format Rock and Roll, I'm going to take that to heart, and I have to have a physical copy of whatever I'm going to talk about in order for it to make my list. So anyway, so let's get started with my first runner-up for album of the year for 1950, and it's this 10-inch album called The Voice of Xtabay. It's by Peruvian soprano Ima Sumac, produced by one of the kings of Exotica, and that's Les Baxter. Sumac has a 5-octave vocal range, probably not for everybody. A couple of songs on this album appeared in the movie Secret of the Incas with Charlton Heston and Nicole Maury, but and it's on the Purple Capitol label, yeah, from 1950. She also appears in that movie as well, but Ima Sumac, The Voice of Xtabay is my first runner-up. One album from 1950. I'm kind of stretching the parameters here because it came out originally, I think, is like a box set of 7-inch records, you know, 45s. And the album itself, even though it's got the same songs, didn't appear till later. But I'm going to count that as 1950 because that's when those songs first came out there. And that's Bing Crosby, Drifting and Dreaming. This album cover is not in the greatest of shape. But yeah, it's a wonderful album. He has a lot of Hawaiian musicians helping him on this one. Got like Dick McIntyre and his Harmony Hawaiians, Lanny McIntyre and his Hawaiians, Paradise Island Trio. What really stands out on this are the first two cuts, which are my favorites, and that's Drifting and Dreaming, and It's Been a Long, Long Time with Les Paul, the Les Paul Trio. You can hear the wonderful Les Paul guitar. It's Been a Long, Long Time, which was written by Julie Stein and lyrics by Sammy Kahn. It was available on 78, 45, and 33. Harry James, along with Kitty Callan singing, had to take the song to #1, but it was replaced by Bing's version at #1. He was on the Decca label, so my #1 album for 1950, Bing Crosby, Drifting and Dreaming. All right, the next category is Song of the Year. And my second runner-up for Best Song from 1950, or my favorite song from 1950, is from Tennessee Ernie Ford, and it's the song Shotgun Boogie, which is the second song on here. It's his biggest hit on the country charts, being at #1 for 14 weeks, which is kind of surprising because I would think that 16 Tons was his biggest hit. But it was written by Ford, who was a hunter. Talks about hunting for rabbits, squirrels, and doves. But his girlfriend's dad also has a shotgun, and he's not too happy with her choice in men, which is Tennessee Ernie Ford in this song. It's a really fun song. my second runner-up. I also want to say that I will put a link in the description for all three songs that I'm going to list for, I'm going to do this every time for my favorite songs. If you want to take a listen on YouTube to the songs, I'll have a link in the description. And my second runner-up from Wynonie Harris, it's the song Good Morning Judge, second one on side 2. And this is a compilation from Charlie. Wynonie Harris, if I could say this name right, Wynonie Harris kind of has the remnants of rock and roll with his music. It's a song about someone charged with everything from tax evasion to relations with a minor. But he did have a great influence on what would become rock and roll. It's got great riffing saxophones by Bill Graham and on baritone sax and John Hartsfield on tenor sax. It went to number 6 on the R&B charts. Yeah, Wynonie Harris, great jump blues artist with Good Morning Judge. And my number one song, or my favorite song from 1950, is going to be from Percy Mayfield. It's the song Please Send Me Someone to Love. It's a great blues ballad. It was also written by Percy Mayfield, went to number 1 on the R&B charts. He was kind of a soft blues crooner, but he could also depict a hint of danger in his singing and lyrics. It went to number 1 on the R&B charts. I guess I already said that. But other versions that were done were by Dinah Washington, the Moonglows, Fred Neil, Ruth Brown, Freddie King, the Animals, Fiona Apple even did this song. One of his biggest songs that most people know that he wrote was Hit the Road Jack, which Ray Charles made a big hit. But yeah, the number 1 song, Percy Mayfield, Please Send Me Someone to Love. All right, now we get to the film stuff. So actually I have 3 runners up because I couldn't decide this time. So my third runner-up for my favorite movie from 1950 is The Asphalt Jungle. Now, The Asphalt Jungle starred Sterling Hayden and Louis Calhern, but it's a great film noir about a jewel heist. Of course, not everything goes as planned. It also has an early appearance of Marilyn Monroe. Quentin Tarantino actually cites this film as an inspiration for Reservoir Dogs. Third runner-up, Asphalt Jungle. My second runner-up is the movie Harvey with James Stewart. It's directed by Henry Koster. This is a forced James Stewart movie collection, but it was based on a stage play. And James Stewart, who plays the main character in the movie, has this tall, invisible rabbit as a friend. It's called a puka, which goes back to Irish folklore. His sister wants to try to have him committed to an asylum, but everything does not go smoothly. There are a lot of mix-ups, which leads to this perfect comedy material, kind of screwball comedy way. And it has this great supporting cast, especially Josephine Hull, who plays the sister, and she also won an Academy Award for her performance. All right, my first runner-up is the classic movie All About Eve, written and directed by Joseph Mankiewicz. It's a beautiful behind-the-scenes story set in a theatrical world with the up-and-coming Anne Baxter attempting to steal the spotlight from theatrical stalwart Bette Davis. It has some great razor-sharp dialogue, especially from George Sanders, who plays the theater critic Addison DeWitt. It won Best Picture, Director, Screenplay, and Supporting Actor with George Sanders. And this is a Criterion Collection edition, number 1003, as a spine number, but with a lot of great extras, the Criterion Collection. But anyway, All About Eve, my first runner-up. And my favorite movie from 1950 is the great Sunset Boulevard, directed by Billy Wilder. This movie starts out like no other, with William Holden's character face down in the swimming pool and then telling his story of how he got that way. He gets involved with Gloria Swanson as this former silent film star, Norma Desmond. It also has the great Erich von Stroheim as her butler, Max. He was a great silent film director. And some don't consider this a noir, but if they do, it's one of the best ever. And outside of Casablanca, this has probably more quotable lines than almost any movie. Yeah, the great Sunset Boulevard. This has some cool extras too. It's a Paramount collection, but yeah, get the Sunset Boulevard. Just a great film. My favorite in 1950. And next comes my favorite TV show from 1950. Now, for the TV shows, since they run for several seasons, they are only eligible on their debut season, but I'll take the full run of the television show into consideration when I consider the show. So anyway, I have a second runner-up, and that is the Cisco Kid. This is the best of 35 episodes on this. But yeah, Duncan Ronaldo played the Cisco Kid, and Leo Carrillo was his sidekick, Pancho. It's the first television series to be filmed in color, although most people have black and white sets back in 1950. It's also important for having Hispanic heroes in it. But yeah, the Cisco Kid, my second runner-up. My first runner-up, and it was Your Show of Shows. Got Sid Caesar on the cover here. But yeah, it was highly influential, especially the sketch comedy in it. It was a variety show, but the sketch comedy in that influenced everything from Carol Burnett to Saturday Night Live. And it had such stars as Sid Caesar, Imogene Coco, and Carl Reiner, and such writers as Mel Brooks, Neil Simon, and also Carl Reiner, yeah. So that's my favorite my first runner-up from 1950. And my favorite television show from 1950 that debuted in 1950 is the Jack Benny Program. Originally a radio series, a television program debuted in October of 1950. Jack Benny plays this kind of miser heel that played the violin very badly and usually made himself the butt of the jokes, which kind of endeared him to people. This says the lost episodes, but I don't think these were ever lost. But it has such guest stars as Natalie Wood, Red Skelton, Gary Cooper, George Burns, Dick Van Dyke, John Wayne, Milton Berle, Tony Curtis, and President Harry Truman. Yeah, Jack Benny Program. And so thanks for watching. Next will be 1951. If you have any favorites from 1950 that I didn't mention, please let me know. Of course, I may like those and I just didn't have the physical copy of them. But hope everyone's doing well, and thanks for watching.